We have neglected this position no longer. Looking at the linebackers, looking at the draft, and looking at one of the Bears linebackers. The CHGO Bears Friday podcast starts right now. Oh, yeah, baby. Let's get him that money. We'll discuss it. He's earned it. TJ Edwards, front and center with the extension candidate, but there he is. My teammate, my good friend, my round of 32 advancer, Gregory P. Allen Braggs on a Friday with Adam Rank 12 minutes away. It's a big Friday show, buddy, as Darth Maul in early here with the LFCHGO. Gregory, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you as well. Shout out to Jose Diaz. You know, he's sitting here saying, I love that I drive for a living, so never get to miss a pod. Appreciate you guys working hard here on your Friday. We're going to have some fun with you guys. Get you through it. Yes, it's March Madness. Games are underway. They've been going on. They don't stop for the next 3 days, and it's just one of my favorite times of year. If we had to rank them, it's definitely in the top 3.
Yeah, and baseball right around the corner, summer lurking, Purdue about to get eliminated. It is perfect. So we are starting out today with our friends from Prize Picks in our little pick'em segment here as we take a look at what's going on in the draft. And so some big news out there. We got a labrum tear for Jihaad Campbell, the top linebacker in the draft. And then it also made us think about, should the Bears draft a linebacker or stand pat with the current formulation that they have? Hey, shout out to our friends at Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use the code CHGO. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, so this is the top linebacker. He's out of Alabama. I've watched a bunch of his YouTube sensation. Dude, he's gets to the quarterback. He can cover too. Lot of things to like here. But, it's not exactly a position that's been talked about a whole lot here, Braggs. But again, the Bears with some more flexibility to do some things here. Where are you sitting with adding a linebacker in this year's draft at whatever point? Top, bottom, somewhere in the middle?
Well, it's interesting. And Steven, definitely feel free to jump in this conversation. But to me, I don't think anybody thought that you'd even have an opportunity to draft a guy like Jihaad Campbell, who looked to be projected to be in the first round. Then he comes out that he, had a torn labrum and he had to have surgery on it after the combine. So that's going to put him out, like you said, 6 to 9 months potentially. And so where does he drop in the draft? Does he fall to the Bears in the second round? Are the Bears even interested in trying to take on a guy like that where you're getting a high value, but it's not really one of their top priority needs at this moment? But you've been as vocal about it as others. There's been a lot of Bears fans that have felt like Tremaine Edmunds hasn't lived up to the standard of what I think some were expecting when he was signed here. Still a solid player, but has he been there? And then obviously we'll get into the TJ Edwards conversation. Gary in the chat saying linebacker is definitely a priority. So I do think that there is a potential that if he falls to the Bears in the second round, that there's a discussion to be had. Ultimately, if it were me, I'm going to stick with the trenches, still staying with being trench drunk, but I'm also open to keeping an open mind to some of these different, opportunities the Bears might have this in the draft.
Anybody who's out early on a Friday being trench drunk, having a little cocktail to celebrate the week because you're not working today, congratulations.
Little Samuel Adams, thank you very much.
There you go, baby. This our friends at Sam Adams the Sam Adams American Light is a great choice. Just a little bit more on Campbell before we get to TJ. Look, last year, 117 tackles, got to the quarterback and sacked him 5 times, forced a couple of fumbles.
Right.
Labrum injuries. Don't know when exactly it happened, but he did leave Bama's bowl game, the ReliaQuest Bowl, where they beat Michigan. He left with an upper body injury, so perhaps he injured it there. Braggs, you mentioned the 6 to 8 weeks, but he still ran at the combine 4.52 40. Did a broad jump. He did not bench press, didn't do the vertical jump. So, this is a guy that's already, he's still trying to show you what he can do while he is injured. There's, and you watch him, you can obviously see there's a huge want to be dynamic on the field that kind of explodes off the screen, if you will. Look, to answer my question here, Gregory, I like great players, right? And if there's some, reading up here, some people don't think he's going to fall out of the first round. He's still getting picked because he's just that talented. But to your scenario that he comes down to 39 or 41, if he's the best player on the board by a wide margin, I have no problem with the Bears making that pick right there and waiting for him to get healthy. Because I still think, you do have to think long-term here, as much as you'd love to make the playoffs next year and fast forward this thing. To me, this is still a team that's building for a year out from now, even 2 years out from now, more so than this season, as far as winning the Super Bowl.
Well, as Ryan Poles said, the board is open for them. We're not just talking about the first round in that regard. And so the way they've approached free agency and where their roster currently sits, they are in a position where they can start looking outside the box with certain personnel, running back, tight end, corner, linebacker, safety. We can focus in on offensive and defensive line all we want, and that's certainly still important to continue to build that depth and quality depth there, and put youth in there. But they can look ahead for some of these other positions as well. So I'm certainly willing to keep an open mind, but as you said, maybe he doesn't fall to 39. And if he does, is there other options on the table of guys that can get on the field sooner and start to make an impact and start to develop a little quicker?
Right. And let's take a look at the current situation as we just sort of examine this from all angles, if you will, on a very memorable Friday. I got a ton of things fun for you at the end of the show today that I'm super excited about. But I'm trying to stay focused here on the linebackers. TJ Edwards, one of the great signings in Ryan Poles' Bear history, 3 years, $19.5 million. That happened in 2023. So he's going into his last year now. $5.4 million is salary for his last year, which, we were going to do a graphic on where that ranks him in linebackers in the NFL. And he's so far down the list that it wasn't worth doing. And Tremaine Edmunds, you would think likely cut after this year, unless his play comes up massively with Dennis Allen, right? That would be a $15 million savings next season. So you can easily point to, you got to pay TJ. If you're playing, are you willing to pay a market value, which could be around that 15, 16, somewhere in there? And I don't think you're bringing back Tremaine. I see Steven here wanting to pop in. So go ahead, producer, superstar Steven Nicholas. What do you got?
Yeah, I just think this room is so thin right now. I mean, we look at it. So it's Tremaine Edmunds. We're just, like, as you just said, he's likely to be cut after this coming season. They're going to save $15 million in doing so. That alone could be allocated right to TJ Edwards. Of the two, I think we'd all probably agree TJ Edwards has been the better running back of the two, right?
Oh, no question.
So, I mean, for that reason, I think this is a priority in this offseason. You don't want to risk TJ Edwards getting to free agency after the conclusion of this coming season and letting some other team scoop him up. Because then look at your depth chart. Right now, you look at it. It's Tremaine Edmunds. It's TJ Edwards, Amin Agbogbamiga, and Noah Sewell. That is not a very deep linebacker room.
Yeah, we have done a disservice on this show so far. The fact that we're talking linebackers for 9 minutes and have not addressed the fact that they let Jack Sanborn walk out the door and he got paid a little over $1 million by the Cowboys. The fact that, as juice in the pocket, throwing in the chat right now, trade number 10 for Sandgod. I think that's a legitimate thought by Juice in the Pocket. Did they make a huge mistake, and should they give up the 10th overall pick for Sandgod? But look, they may regret that move down the line. He wouldn't have been. I would think they will, because he was cheap and he had the nose for the football. But obviously, with the new regime coming in here, Ben and Dennis, they want to play a little bit different, and Sandgod did not fit into their formula.
Well, how old is he?
TJ Edwards,
Yeah, Gary's saying due for an extension.
So he's 28 right now. He'll turn 29 in August.
Right, so I don't understand why Gary in the chat saying, he's saying
30 at the time of the when he would be starting 2 seasons from now.
Right, but if you do an extension now, right, and add on a couple years, like how much of an extension are we actually talking about here? And to me, yeah, you can point to his age. He's going to start getting on the wrong side of 30 here. But also, let's look at his availability, right? I mean, every year he's last 3 seasons, 17 games, he started all 17. And for me, he's been pretty consistent with his numbers as well. Obviously, the defense kind of fell off the cliff at the back end of last year. He's always around the football. He's a guy that's always going to give you 100% hustle. You are having to make a decision here on Tremaine Edmunds here eventually. I do think at some point he's going to be a guy they cut for salary cap and look to get younger at some point, right? So if you're saying you're not going to take care of if you're not going to take care of TJ, now you got to address both situations. And the great Jack Sanborn's already gone, so we don't have that solution anymore. So I don't have any issue giving TJ Edwards a contract extension. It doesn't. I mean, what are we talking? Like a 2-year contract extension?
Yeah.
That to me, that's nothing that that's nothing that is going to move the needle for me, and I think that would be healthy for the Bears.
3 years, $45 million, 22 guaranteed. TJ Edwards, you in? I mean, it's going to be right
pretty realistic. I mean, when you consider the fact that the salary cap number
you'd have to show me what the rest of the market looks like, and the players. Like when you say that, I don't care. It ain't my money, but I want to see what the ranking of where he gets now slotted in. How high of a paid linebacker is he compared to that market? That's how I'm going to be able to tell you. I don't have that in front of me right now. So, I if they can find fair market value for him the same way they did for Cole Kmet, the same way they did for Jalen Johnson. And we were talking the other day of, hey, let's do this for Kyler Gordon as well. The market always moves up. So go ahead though, Steven. I don't know if you had any info to that.
I was going to say as an outside linebacker, TJ Edwards, if say he got that $15 million right around there annually that you just mentioned, Carm, that would put him like right at 10th in the NFL and AAV right now for outside linebackers. Obviously you have to judge outside and inside completely differently just based on value of the position.
If we're just talking about tackles, just as we're trying to figure out his number, he was 22nd last year with 129. Right in front of him, Jack Campbell, Fred Warner, Bobby Wagner, Demario Davis. I mean, there's a bunch of linebackers all right in front of him as you just climb up the tackle mountain here. And, you go all the way up to Zaire Franklin at the top with 173. I don't know if you guys remember a guy by the name of Roquan Smith, but he finished 5th last year with 154. So look, is he going to get elite money? I could be overstating, where he falls in, as a 30-year-old, but he's going to get paid. It's at bare minimum, he's doubling his salary, you would think.
Well, and as Guy Finley points out, and this is kind of the overlining point. It's not about like, well, yeah, of course you can pay him, and is he worth, giving it, does he deserve things for what he's, shown on the field and the kind of leader is? But Guy says it's never about can you pay him. There's a hard cap and everyone hits it. The question is, what percentage of your cap do you want to commit to a linebacker? And a lot of teams, they don't want to commit, a big amount of money to linebackers. So, we're going to have to see, exactly where Dennis Allen values, allocating that money across the defense. So it'll be interesting, but they definitely have some decisions to make here coming up at linebacker and not having Jack Sanborn here anymore. Maybe he wasn't a fit for Dennis Allen, whatever. But they are going to have to start planning for the future eventually, one way or another.
Well, another thing about TJ real quick, and Steven, let's get one more thought from you on this. But look, great guy in the locker room, leader, goes about his business the right way. Also from here. So not that matters for the Bears, but maybe it would. And would he take a little less money to stay? Does he love playing in Chicago? Perhaps he would. I don't know the answer to that. Neither do you guys. Steven, what else you got?
Yeah, before we hit our break, I just want to bring up, this is off of Fran Duffy's big board here. And these are some players that could be considered to be drafted by the Bears. We had mentioned Jihaad Campbell. If he were to slip to that second round range because of his torn labrum, he's going to miss about 6 to 8 months is what the projections are. But I'm wondering if any of these other names kind of fall into that range where you'd be comfortable taking a linebacker if you're the Bears in the NFL draft.
It's a good list right there. Anybody jump off for you, Greggy?
Well, I mean, everybody's talking up Carson Schwezinger, right? He's going to be the guy that makes you get over losing Jack Sanborn. So maybe that's the guy in the third round. When it comes to the first and second round, I'm looking at 2 things: trenches and running back. That's what I'm looking at. If you're able to get Cam Scattaboo in the third round, then maybe you can change my mind about that second round pick. But the further you get away in the draft, you start to get in the third round, running backs are going to start coming off the board. And I get a little uneasy having to be that patient, waiting to the third round to let a guy like that fall to me. And now, add to that running back room. So I'm probably going to be aggressive in the second round, looking at this bevy of running backs that the Bears and the rest of the NFL have at their disposal.
There was one guy on that list that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. That was Chris Paul Jr. He kind of falls into that 3 to 5 range for the draft.
I had you covered, man. I was gonna Chris Paul Jr. I was gonna give you some Ole Miss love, but keep going. You know him better than I do, I'm sure.
SEC, he played at Arkansas, transfers to Ole Miss. He had some of his best games at the end of last season. And what I like about him is he just doesn't miss tackles. Yeah, he's very, very solid. You know what you're getting out of him. He doesn't let anyone get through him. Sometimes he tackles a little high, but he always wraps everybody up. That makes me think he could have a pretty high floor. And honestly, reminds me a little bit of TJ Edwards in that, because TJ Edwards doesn't miss tackles either. He finishes everything.
Yeah, and more importantly than anything, you just said Chris Paul Jr. His nickname is Pooh, which, of course, is Derrick Rose's nickname. Mm-hmm. One of the all-time great Chicagoans. So, bringing a guy like that in here could be dynamic for the Bears.
That also could be problematic because there's only one Pooh in Chicago.
There you go.
Derrick Rose.
Shout out. And also Chris Paul Jr., CP3.
I also don't like that because I don't like Chris Paul, the basketball Chris Paul. No,
you don't like Chris Paul? Why don't you like Chris Paul?
We don't have to get into it. I don't like Chris Paul. Okay.
Okay, Gregory, no problem. Hey, Adam Rank, the great Adam Rank from the NFL Network, coming up in a minute. But first, shout out to our friends at Boston Beer with the great Sam Adams American Light, not your average light beer, brewed with 100% American sourced ingredients, local independent farmers. This is no gimmicks. This is no fluff. This is clean. This is crisp. This is super easy to drink. I wish I was drinking one right now. The Sam Adams American light beer that's made right to take you to the next level. It is always Sam season. And yeah, light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light. It's available now at select Chicago retailers. And you do have to be 21. Please drink responsibly.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Sam Adams and their comfortable hoodies. And also shout out to our guys over at Circa Sportsbook. Whatever the sport, the app to bet is Circa Sports Illinois. Obviously, it's March Madness right now, so make sure you're hitting up the Circa Sportsbook. Circa Sports, it's sports betting the way it should be. Circa Sports Illinois has high betting limits, low holds, and exceptional customer service. Bet on all your favorite teams in every game this season. Spreads, props, futures, or in-game, Circa Sports has it. Fund and bet like a pro from anywhere, anytime in Illinois. Obviously, like I said, make sure you're getting your bets down for March Madness today and this weekend. Who do you like? What bets are you watching? That's all you got to be able to see. I'm obviously keeping an eye on Purdue tomorrow. Big game coming up here against McNeese. They look like a pretty tough team. And you know who I like. That's right. That's my beloved Purdue Boilermakers. So download your new bookie today at circasports.com. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Circa Sportsbook.
You want to show some respect to your opponent and get the name of the team right, you arrogant Boiler fan? McNeese. It's McNeese State. The Cowboys.
Sorry. Okay.
You just took the state. That's like Michigan and Michigan State.
Yeah.
How could you? That is messed up. You know who would never do something like that? I believe his name.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Adam Rank.
Oh, that's right. He would never.
He would never. Coming at us today on our Hooters Hot Wing Hotline. Check out our friend at Hooters, the great delicious wings, the amazing beer, the Hooters cheerleaders. They got it all for you. Find them at originalhooters.com as we bring in my favorite Friday guest at 12:15. See, I was gonna go too tall, and then now I went too short. I gotta find the middle in life. Adam Rank, great to see you as always. I don't know how much you caught of our linebacker conversation, but we figured we'd jump off the conversation with you today there. Do you want to give TJ an extension? Do you want to cut Tremaine next year? Do you want to draft a linebacker this year? There's 3 prongs that you can attack this one, Rank. You got lots of options here.
Well, everybody knows over the various shows that I've been stumping for Schlesinger because he's not really a local kid here. If you're familiar with the Southern California landscape, it's not super close, but still somebody who I took great interest in. When he went to UCLA, it's a decent player, but really became a superstar over this season and really had a lot of offers, had opportunities to go out there and go. He wanted to do one more year. He could have gone to some places like Texas or wherever, but he realized he's going to be a top pick in the NFL draft. I think that's a good way to go. I do like TJ Edwards. I think that TJ has been one of the most solid players for us. I thought that was a solid pickup. I know that we have to sit there and wear the Roquan trade, and we got 2 guys for 1 guy, and I know, and all that stuff, but it's like at the same time, hasn't quite been that dynamic, but TJ Edwards has actually kept us a little bit respectable. And honestly, it's up to Dennis Allen. I know there's a new scheme coming in. Going to see how that fits and how that works. And so for me, some of these, I don't know. It's easy for us to sit here on social media and podcasts and everything like that and determine what's going on. But I want to know, but at the same time, I want to know what the plan is. Like, what are we doing? Because we're probably going to have to get younger someplace. When you look at the resources that we've put on the offensive line, for the resources we put kind of in the wide, not as much in the wide receiver room, because we're probably not bringing back. We're not bringing in a Keenan Allen type of veteran, although Duvernay is a pretty good player for us. We got to start saving money somewhere. Does it come at the expense of the linebackers? That's my biggest question right now.
Well, until you have to pay a quarterback, which is still a couple years down the road, you certainly can get creative with how you allocate your salary cap. I will say this with when you're talking about the linebackers and TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmunds, and maybe it hasn't lived up to the standard or hope we would when they traded Roquan away and they bring these couple guys in. But at the same time, the defense, has had its ups and downs, and certainly it had its plummet fall in the 10-game losing streak last year when Andrew Billings got hurt. Everything seemed to fall off a cliff. And now you add some pieces. Obviously, Billings will be coming back from his injury. You add Grady Jarrett, a veteran here on the defensive line. You add Dio Odengbo, and then you hope to add another guy here in the draft to really bolster that defensive line. And I think that only serves to help everyone behind them, certainly the linebackers. And I look at, it's a long time ago, and certainly we don't have a Brian Urlacher or a Lance Briggs on this team. I'll make no illusions of that fact. But at the same time, a lot of times with linebackers like that, you got to have a good defensive line to plug things up, to let them shine as best they're going to. So now that in theory, if you're able to have a defensive line that's more effective, then we can actually get what we were hoping to out of these 2 guys. That's my hope for this season alone. And then we'll see how they want to, either extend or replace or however they want to do it. But, when you're talking about the secondary or the linebackers, I've always kind of judged them on a scale of the understanding that the Bears have had trouble getting to the quarterback, certainly here in the last year.
Rank,
I just stunned you guys.
It's a good point. Yeah, again, because I look back, Tremaine Edmunds has been somebody who, ever since he was drafted, I had high hopes for him. I thought that he was going to be probably a bigger superstar than he is right now. And so for me, I was very hopeful when he came to Chicago. I'm like, okay, this is good. And I bought into it, helped push the narrative of 2 to replace 1. The same money. We got 2 guys for the price of 1. But ultimately, I think that we need to look at the Roquan Smith trade as kind of a loss. and that one didn't go. But like, where are you going to put your money? And I think that's going to be the biggest thing for the Bears is like, where are they going to put their money? We saw with Jack Sanborn not returning, that Ryan Poles has got to be somewhat confident that he's going to go out there and address this either in secondary free agency or he's going to get somebody in the draft. And you just have to find the priority of what positions we're drafting for. And for me, it's like, how important is the linebacker in Dennis Allen's defense? Like if we have the secondary and the line in front of you is playing well, I almost feel like linebackers, much like the running back position for a long time, we're just kind of like, okay, we'll find somebody. And we don't need to have that dominant as long as the line, like the trenches, because we've been talking about this for weeks. The trenches, build the trenches, build the trenches. You can hide some deficiencies at the linebacker position if the trenches, especially on the defensive side, are fortified.
So as we wrap up the linebacker love that we're giving today, I do think when it comes to TJ, they might want someone faster, man. I think there's an emphasis on speed here that Ben likes, and TJ's not that. He gets beaten coverage. He's not going to wow you going from sideline to sideline here. So I don't know. He's been super solid. He's been a very good player. I see this marinating in you, Greg, and you want to respond. But that would be my if I'm guessing where this goes. If they don't sign TJ, I think the speed factor will be the reason.
I don't know. I've always felt like, coverage is one of TJ Edwards' strengths, but just like when we were talking about Kyler Gordon the other day, if you're not getting to the quarterback, staying tight on whoever you're covering becomes a lot more difficult. So again, I think that there's a more fair evaluation to come in theory if this team, is getting to the quarterback a little bit better. And then, everybody's looking at the template of the Philadelphia Eagles, and they typically, the reason they let TJ Edwards walk a couple of years ago was because they don't like to spend money on linebackers, but they just won the Super Bowl and that changed. And they, gave a contract to Zach Bond, obviously a different player, a younger player, all that. But at the same time, they changed their philosophy based off of the success they had last season. So I understand where you're coming from, Rank, and you kind of have to pick and choose your spots when it comes to, how you're going to build your salary cap, and there's going to be a position group that takes a hit more than others. So yeah, I don't know, this is honestly a tougher conversation. I think a shorter contract extension for TJ Edwards isn't the end of the world, but I do anticipate next year, I think there's a good chance they look to replace Tremaine Edmunds.
Adam ranks all-time favorite Bears linebacker is who?
Ooh, Otis Wilson.
Oh, Otis. Wow.
55 over Lance Briggs and Jerry Azuma 55. Big news.
Yeah, I know. Both those guys are going to be upset with me right now for saying that. That's why I didn't want to pit them against each other because I know.
It's personal preference. You're allowed.
But yeah, you know what? It's funny too. It was because I always liked his rhyme the best in the Super Bowl Shuffle. I'm old enough to remember the Super Bowl Shuffle when it was a thing, when it was coming out. Mama Boy Otis, one of a kind, ladies all love me for my body and my mind. I'm like, this is my guy.
Do you know the next line out of him? Because I still don't know. Does he? Something on the floor. I feek on the floor. I get on the floor.
Yeah,
that's.
Steven, pull it up. What's Otis Wilson's line? What are you doing over here, Steven?
But ain't no sucker gonna get past me.
Somebody in the chat has to know this. I'm just surprised, Adam, that you didn't. Pisa Tino Isamoa wasn't your favorite Bears linebacker of all time.
Who's your favorite, Gregory? Let's go eras, because me and Rank, we're gonna go 85. He's going Otis. I'm going Wilbur, because Wilbur that defense was not the same when they let Wilbur go. One of the Bears' all-time cheap moves because they didn't want to pay him more than they paid Mike Singletary. Singletary had to be the most highest paid linebacker instead of just paying the guy who was ready to go.
That's the one thing, though. I know, this is one of the things where you need to blame management more than you blame the player. But at the same time, he still went to Washington. And the kids today won't understand this because they don't get this. Going to Washington was probably more egregious than going to Green Bay. I would say that, especially in that era.
Oh, we're
The guy
playing
was-
that was when the Washington football team was extraordinary, and
Yeah.
we're giving the Bears problems. But we took them out in 80.
Eliminated us in 87 and 88, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we have the lyrics if you're ready for them, Carm.
I'm mama's boy Otis, one of a kind. The ladies all love me for my body and my mind. I'm slick on the floor, as I can be. But ain't no stuff gonna get past me.
You said I feek on the floor, which
I never knew it was slick until
means.
this moment. That's a great job by Steven. Some guy, I didn't know that line either. Some guys are jealous of my style in class. That why some end up on there and then they whistle.
Yeah,
up
that's
the
right.
ass.
He also had the profanity, which spoke to me as a child.
There it
I
is.
mean, Otis went on whatever documentary and talked about how he had somebody. He's like, listen, we were living a life. I'd have one coming over at 7, then I'd have another at 9, and then somebody at 11. I mean, Otis was. I mean, all those lyrics were strong. Okay, let's get out of that.
My favorite linebacker before we take a break, and I know we're going to talk about some of the moves around the NFL here in the last week. But my favorite linebacker in my era, and this isn't partial because I do a show with him, but that is the great Lance Briggs. Let me tell you why. Because he was the underappreciated of the two. Urlacher got all the glory, and certainly it was deserved. He's one of the great linebackers of all time. Him and Ray Lewis certainly changed the way the linebacker position was played in the early 2000s. But Lance Briggs was a dog. And the way he got to the line of scrimmage and jumped the snap count, he'd be in the backfield before the ball even got to the quarterback. It was insane to watch the way he would knife through those different gaps, and Lance, obviously would just truck a guy coming down the sidelines at times. Briggs, Urlacher, obviously an amazing player, had some historical moments, obviously the Monday Night Miracle, but Lance Briggs needs to be fairly appreciated his time. He is Hall of Fame worthy, and I hope that they give him a fair consideration. And then, yes, Lily Blues says Rosie Colvin was Lily Blues. And then shout out to Rosie Colvin because I see him every game I go to Purdue at Mackey Arena because his son, Miles Colvin, plays for my Purdue Boilermakers. And that's right. That's how I was able to tie all that in back to Purdue because that's all I care about right now. We're going to take a time out, talk about some things around the NFL, but got to give a quick shout out to our good friends here. And our fine sponsors. And of course, I got to hit up our guys over at Ray Auto Chevy. The March Radness sales event is going on now at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. That means the latest vehicles you've been looking for are now priced with game-winning savings, like 0% financing for 60 months, $0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, plus 0 hidden fees on select new Chevy models. Or you can go ahead and check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, so you'll get a great deal. Plus, Ray's Price Promise lets you shop confidently because a guarantee of no add-ons, no hidden fees, and no gimmicks means the price you see is the price you pay. You don't have to worry about price changing, stressful negotiating, or any tricks. The people at Ray Chevrolet just want to help you get into the right vehicle at the right price. So go see for yourself. Visit our partner this March at their convenient location right on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on their March Radness sales event going on all month long for 0% financing on select new Chevy models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since
1963. Shout out to my guy, Ray Scarpelli. He had a great ride in the tracks today. I have a great ride every day. Thank you, Ray. Hey, are you let's call it a disaster with your money? Do you have no idea what you're spending it on? And, the end of the month comes and Jenny, your amazing wife, looks at you cross-eyed. Hey, start managing your finances to build a life you actually want. Do it with our friends at Monarch Money. Monarch makes managing money simple, even for the busy lives or for those of us who are spending way too much time on spaces late at night. With all your accounts, your credit cards, Your investments, hopefully you have some of those in one place. You're going to know where your money stands without the hassle. Track your spending, your saving, your investments. Do it effortlessly so you can focus on what matters most. Make your biggest life goals a reality. Do it with Monarch Money. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code CHGO. And this is an unbelievable deal we're giving you. Go to monarchmoney.com, MONARCH money.com, and you get half off for your first year. 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com. Use that code CHGO. All right. So, Rank, big signing this week. We got a returner. Devin Duvernay.
Devin's back.
Devin is back. Devin is here.
Yeah.
Devin is dancing. Double D. This is long time Raven, then a Jaguar, and now a Bear.
Yeah.
We keep paying for these guys because we don't know how to draft one. I won't make that mention. And then your guy, Tyler Scott, by the way, getting pushed down the list here too, which bugs me as well because I want to make him my guy. But your thoughts on Devin Duvernay?
I think as a football player, this is a pretty good move. Obviously want to put some attention to the return game. Obviously with Carter going to Cleveland, there was a necessity there. And yeah, this has been a situation that is, I don't know, it's been brewing, but like it is, we need consistency there. And it just feels like, again, we haven't been able to find our guy. I think because Bayless signed in New Orleans. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it always bums me out. I'm like, God, I still had a lot of high. I still hope Bayless does well.
Me too.
But yeah, we haven't really been able to get this settled down. But like you said, to me, the biggest thing for me is like, what is going on with Tyler Scott? Like, it just seems weird that he's not like the Ben Johnson's got to be familiar with him. Like, what are we doing? Like, how does he not have a spot on this team? Like, what is going on? What is the receiver room like? I don't think that Duvernay comes in and is I don't think he's a threat to break the receiving rotation. I hope not. I don't know. But I think for the return game, I think this is important. I think for Ryan Poles, he has shown that he really wants to emphasize how much special teams matters to the Chicago Bears. You draft a punter in the 4th round. Bayless, who was supposed to come in as a special teams ace, was drafted in the 3rd round. So they've obviously put in a lot of resources to special teams. It hasn't necessarily always hit, but I think it does show that there is a commitment there. Kind of like how I'm trying to hit my 3-wood. I'm not good at it, but I'm committed to it and committed to trying to do it. Orange Cassidy, by the way, shout out to Orange Cassidy. He said Samurai Mike was his number one.
There you go, Orange. And he was doing some great linebacker work all over the place here, Orange Cassidy. 27 years old. Didn't have a great year last year. There was a lot of talent in that room, though, which maybe took away some potential opportunities. Look, Bears need help here. It's there's opportunity for somebody to emerge here in training camp. Will he crack the wide receiver rotation? Maybe. That feels pretty wide open right now.
Well, he did play some slot with the Ravens a couple of years ago, so. Maybe, and Ben Johnson is known for, getting the most out of whoever he can on offense. So you bring in a couple wide receivers here. Obviously Zacchaeus is somebody that I think is going to be a reliable option. Whether he's your 3rd or 4th option, I think is yet to be determined. But no, I agree with you, Adam. Like, I don't think Devin Duvernay is, no pun intended, slotted in anywhere. But if they do keep Tyler Scott on through training camp, and I don't really see any reason why they wouldn't, because I think their options are limited on how they can, add to that room any more than they have at this point. And the draft is kind of tricky on who's going to fall to them in some of the later rounds. I highly doubt they use one of their first 3 rounds of picks on a wide receiver. That's just my opinion. Yeah. But so I'll be looking forward to that. I know some people want to write off Tyler Scott because the previous coaching staffs didn't see any interest in trying to use him. But those coaching staffs are gone for a certain reason. And so now Tyler Scott's entering his 3rd year. We saw some of the things he was doing in the preseason, in that 3rd preseason game against the Chiefs. They threw to him like 22 times. Seemed to look all right in that game, but I understand the context there. But Tyler's an easy guy to root for and he's in his third year. Ben Johnson knows how to get the most out of players. A guy like that has the kind of speed that this wide receiver room needs, and a guy that can create separation, not just going deep, but coming across the middle of the field and some different things. Speed doesn't hurt, as Mark said. Ben Johnson, puts a lot of stock into speed, and Devin Duvernay obviously embodies that. But I think that these are the options they have for this season, and that so.
Hey, break this down like you can rank it up here. Is Duvernay an upgrade on DeAndre Carter?
I really liked Carter. I thought Carter was pretty good. As Orange was pointing out, we have just two punt returns for touchdowns for Duvernay, but still is somebody who can come out here and do a wide variety of things. And honestly, with the change and the upgrade at the offensive coordinator position, when I think about the Lions, and you would watch and not that Tim Patrick was a bad player or Khalif Raymond, but like the Lions always did a very good job of like finding opportunities for these players to go out there and do their thing. And I think this is the big thing with a lot of teams and the structure of teams is that when you have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, like how many more home run hitters do you really need? I guess that's a bad example. But you still need people to go out there and do their job, which is what, when you look at the success of the Patriots over the years, even the Chiefs right now, you look at the wide variety of different players and the way that they use them. The Chiefs and the two previous dynasties showed that like, hey, not everybody needs to come in here and score 20 fantasy points per game, but you can do something in every game that makes you valuable. And I think that's what the Bears are looking for here. So Carter was a player that I really like. So I don't know if it's an upgrade or not, but I think like you have to also take in or bake in the coaching upgrade, which also helps just about everything.
Last year, for the record, Duvernay on the kick return, 31.9 yards. Carter, 31.9. Duvernay, 25.1. I'm not a math major, but I believe that is 6.8 yards greater to Carter, which I believe that is better if you've taken it back nearly 7 yards further per average return.
Well, it's not better because Duvernay's on the Bears now and Carter isn't.
That's the type of that's what we need. He's done punts and kick returns, but Steven's asking behind the scenes here if you think Zacchaeus will perhaps be doing the punt returns here, or do you think they turn the old Duvernay loose? I would think if you're paying him this money, I would think it's his gig.
Yeah, you know what? I think it goes down to what this coaching staff feels is the best possible situation for him. I actually like Olamide Zacchaeus as a wide receiver. I think he's pretty nice. And again, he was one of those dudes who scores like a handful of touchdowns per year. I know this from great experience because I had to learn how to say his name because he would show up on That Helps No One every once in a while. But I do believe that given an opportunity here, and again, like doing these segments and how many different Lions we would have to come up with. I used to have to practice a Ray Romano impersonation because of Khalif Raymond. So let's hear it. I got to warm up. I'm not warmed up to it. You can't just do it cold. I used to always crack up Cynthia because I'd always try to hit the ma. Like you have to like work up to it. It's not like you can't do that one on command. Like you got to get it just right.
All right, next time we'll call Caliendo then.
He can do it on the fly.
No, we're not calling Caliendo. We're pod committed. Rank's our guy. We don't need no Caliendo, even though it's kind of fun to have Caliendo on every now and then.
It's just real quick. I apologize, but Steven asked the chat. In our private chat, like, do we think that the Bears are done in the wide receiver room? And I saw Guy Finley bring up earlier, like. They do need maybe some size to that room, and I think another name that nobody talks about, is Colin Johnson. Where's he at? What's he up to? He certainly had a lot of size. Was making plays last summer. Like I said, I know we're kind of scraping at the barrel when you're talking about some names that only Bears fans would know. But I just am interested to see. I think anyone has an opportunity to excel now that the great Ben Johnson is here, and he's just going to get the most out of this entire roster, and we are going to walk off into the sunset with happy post-game shows from here on out.
Rank, if you had to bet one of the many Bears hats behind you, if the Bears will either A, sign a wide receiver free agent, another one, and or draft one, are you saying yes and or where are you going? Yes or no?
We're drafting one. No, I'm pretty confident we're going to end up drafting one. I think it's too important. I think the offense is too important to this staff, to this organization. They're going to bring in somebody else. I mean, like we're sitting here, like we have, and especially me, kinship with Tyler Scott. So we're very much like, hey, we're cool, but like Ben Johnson comes in with his own ideas, and he might have somebody in the draft. And I'm still not convinced that we're not going to take Tyler Warren. I'm still not convinced that we're going to draft a wide receiver in the 4th round or whatever it is. So I don't think that we're done. I don't think that you look at this roster and you're like, oh, we're good. We don't need anything. I think there's a huge opportunity to get players like that. So I don't think the Bears are done at all. I think like for big time moves, like, hey, like we just traded for Keenan Allen. I think that kind of stuff is done. But I do believe like wide receiver is definitely on the table in the draft.
I tend to agree, but you know, don't. It's very hard to box Ryan Poles in these days. The guy zigs when you zag. Next thing you know, he's bringing in a Tooney out of nowhere. Now he's got a Grady Jarrett. Now this is a new Poles. This is the new Poles. So all right, Rank. I know that you have to go in a little bit here, but we're just going to hold you for one more very important conversation.
No, please do. Yeah, because Orange Cassidy's backing me up on this one. He's saying wide receiver for sure.
Okay.
And I'm getting into the comments more because Orange was upset that I'm a post-game reader of the comments, not an in-game reader. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf for him today.
Okay.
Spend some time.
See that, Orange Cassidy? Look at that.
But Adam, I don't necessarily recommend doing it because maybe that's just sort of a unique problem that I have because
they're much meaner to us, Adam.
No.
No, they love us to the end of the earth. Hey, I believe there's a guy out there. I think his name is Aaron Rodgers, and he's looking like he's headed towards Pittsburgh here. Rank.
Is that right?
Is
it new news?
Yeah.
I'm doing this segment on the show today. As a matter of fact,
he's apparently at the Pittsburgh facilities today, per Jerry Dulac,
who's the preeminent Steeler writer who knows his stuff. Dulac would not. He's not going to Dulac you. He actually is Dulacing you. He's giving you the good stuff. So
I'm shocked that he's going this early as opposed. I mean, the Steelers are a contender, so I think there is something like it would make sense for him. But I would still wait, like similar to what happened with Joe Flacco and the Browns a couple of years ago, where Joe Flacco is just hanging out at home. The Browns have a need at the quarterback position. You can come in and then, take a team to the playoffs and see what happens. Pittsburgh, I'm curious. This is my thing. Well, what are they doing? Like, what are the Steelers doing? Like, I don't know, because perhaps they're, in some respects, because Tomlin got the most out of Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, that they're like, yeah, there's nothing that can phase him. Or when you bring in DK Metcalf, you have George Pickens, and then you're possibly considering Aaron Rodgers. It sounds like one of these corporations that is like, hey, we're no longer giving you free food in the commissary. Hey, those of you that are doing the work from home, you have to now show up to the office. Kind of like they're trying to force you to quit without trying to just outright ask you to resign. And I don't know if the Steelers are just upset with Mike Tomlin and be like, you know what? You want to stick around, Mike Tomlin? You want to go 9-8 every year and not advance in the playoffs? Fine. We're going to bring every miscreant we can and put them into this locker room until you finally just leave, so we can be like, well, we didn't fire Mike Tomlin, but Mike Tomlin somehow retired. Is this what's happening? Is this because do the Steelers feel like this is a winning situation? Like, do they feel like this is it? Like this is how we get over the top? Because I don't know. Because at some point, I think that the Steelers need to tear it all down. Like they're the AFC Packers, where you're like, yeah, they make the playoffs every year, but like, are they a serious threat to win a Super Bowl? No.
Well, I think if they sign Aaron Rodgers, they are. And I know everybody, that's an unpopular take here in Chicago because we all hate Aaron Rodgers. I hate Aaron Rodgers too. Don't worry. But people want to point to how washed up he is based off of what he did at the Jets last year. It's the Jets. They suck. Their organization is always a dumpster fire, and anyone that goes there is no good. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at the resurgence of his career since he's left the New York Jets. And then when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're the opposite of the Jets. People go there and improve. Look at Justin Fields. Last year, he plays a limited amount of games. He has 10 touchdowns and 1 interception. They bring him out. Russell Wilson was struggling. I know he didn't have the best year, but they still get to the playoffs consistently. And Aaron Rodgers, if you look at the teams that are his options, to me, it's always been the case to me that the Steelers are the only team that makes sense for him to give it one shot. And when you say, what are the Steelers doing? Give it one more shot with Aaron Rodgers for 1 year and see if you can go for it. You bring in the big time wide receiver, from Seattle. You have a good core. You know how to run the ball. Arthur Smith always gets the most out of his offenses, and they always have a good defense. I think that's outside of being in the AFC and the mountain you have to climb against all those other teams. I think that's the best shot that Aaron Rodgers is going to have for this season.
Didn't he threaten to retire 1,700 times? And now it's kind of funny to me because now he's just like hanging on. Where can I go? Right? I mean,
where can he find a place to play?
Yeah.
It is. This is the kind of thinking. Like, this is why our friends at Circa have ATMs in their casinos. It's because of this type of thinking. Like, you know what? I can turn it around. I know that I just lost $4,000, but if I could just go pull $300 out of this ATM, I might be able to make it happen.
I was just watching a clip of Brendan Haywood, former center from North Carolina. I think he ended up on the Wizards, and he was telling a story about Jordan at the casino. And he was like, "What's up, man?" And he's like, "Jordan's in a good mood, having a drink, laughing with some people." He's like, "How you doing on the tables?" He's like, "Oh, I'm down $800,000." And he was like, "That's when I realized how much different my money was to his, because he did not care that he was down $800,000."
Oh, he cared. He cared.
He said by the end of the night he left on top and had some plus money in his pocket, but that's just how it goes. So that, to me, that's the difference, right? Like the Steelers are a team that makes the playoffs, so that maybe they can make a bet that seems a little riskier and maybe find their way through. Like I said, I think the only variable that is fair to say is it's the AFC, and nobody's getting through Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. You got to get in line behind those three juggernauts.
Well, yeah. and to wrap it up and let Ray get to his 1:00 Central meeting, I believe that he has a standing situation with the higher ups at NFL Network, who just tell him how great he is every week at that time, which is exactly what he deserves. Would you like to have some final Tevin Jenkins thoughts off to Cleveland? Is he gonna? I don't know how much playing time he's gonna get. It did not land with the big deal for Tev. It kind of makes me think that, reminds me at least, that sometimes we tend to overrate our own players, at least how they're viewed across the league. Tevin's a Brown, Adam. And I thought a good soldier here, right? Tevin was a good dude, did his best. It just didn't work out, I guess, in the end.
It is one of those things that is disappointing. I think we become attached to these players, and I remember, this is it. Like, we're starting to lose everybody over the years now, and I remember the draft, like the excitement of getting Justin Fields and Tevin Jenkins in the same draft, because if you remember the mocks of that year, like a lot of people had the Bears sticking at their pick, not drafting a quarterback, but taking Tevin Jenkins at number 20. And like, he was going to come in and change the world and all that stuff. And he came in, it was great. Personality wise, everything was wonderful. And, it just never connected. Now, obviously we look back at the coaching staff and we understand the problems they had with that. But at the same time, the management also recognized, like, well, the player could probably have done a little bit more to help himself while he was here. There were some issues. And again, it's a tough deal. And it's like, you like these people personally. Like, I still like Matt Eberflus personally. I still like Tevin Jenkins personally. I'm still a huge fan of Justin Fields and all this stuff. So it's difficult to see them and I have to have that kind of realization, like it's just not going to work out and it's never going to work out. And I'll continue to root for him. Like I'm still going to be a Tevin Jenkins fan, and I'm going to keep an eye on the Cleveland Browns and see what they're able to do. And I hope Tevin goes out there and kills it. And again, I don't think this is a situation. I don't ever look at it in a way like when somebody goes somewhere else and plays well, like, well, look what we did. It's like, well, you know what? It wasn't going to work out for us and him. So I still want him to do really well. Like I don't take pleasure in guys that go out there and they're like, well, we let him go and then he just fails somewhere else. Like, oh, Mitch is still a backup and he's bouncing around. Like there's no satisfying conclusion to that, because I still would wish that Mitch would, I hope he's happy and doing his thing. Similarly with Tevin Jenkins, I hope that he can find it, and I hope Cleveland finds a way to unlock everything for him, and I hope he becomes an all-pro. And I won't be chagrined at all, because I know that we gave it a shot here in Chicago. It didn't work out, and I'll wish him well.
Best to Tevin. Best to you, Adam Rank. Greg, you have to stay for the end of the show. But Rank, get to your meeting, brother. We always appreciate you.
No, thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.
We will see you next Friday. Adam Rank heading on out here as Greg and I get to be best friends to end the show, even though
I was gonna leave with Adam.
I know you want to go. What time does Purdue play today?
They play tomorrow. Thank you very much. I think it's like an 11:30 tip or something like that. But I got 14 seed Lipscomb. They're playing Iowa State. I got them in the Sweet 16, but they're down 11 right now. So my Cinderella pick isn't looking so hot.
Yeah, you're in our pool, which we're doing with our diehards and everybody here. Greg's near the bottom, showing his patheticness. As I
don't like doing brackets. I know all these teams. I watch all these games, and then the brackets come out, and I do terrible at them every year of my whole life.
I'm tied for 5th for the record, and I did some stupid things like
anybody that ever does bracket pools, they know the person that knows the least about the teams are the ones that always do the best. I won the bracket and I just picked the colors, my favorite teams with the favorite colors. That's the kind of crap you hear. I picked the mascots and then they end up getting the best bracket of anyone. So I don't take any stock in these stupid brackets. First one I've filled out in 6 years for this very reason.
This is Greg trying to defend the fact that he thinks he knows college basketball, and then when you gotta rubber hits the road, he's proven every year that he actually doesn't. And so therefore now he's going at grandma.
I picked UC San Diego over. I didn't get a chance to talk to Rank about that because that's his neck of the woods. It wasn't a bad pick. They should have beat Michigan, but they just couldn't get it just right. But they were a good pick.
Okay.
Michigan got let off the hook at the end. I am right. Right.
Great pick. Outstanding pick.
Courtney Cronin, out of like 100 million brackets, was one of 25,000 people to still have a perfect bracket after day one. Shout out to Cronin.
Red hot Cronin, knocking it down, covering the Bears, knowing college basketball, doing radio shows at, I don't know, like late at night, and then just all over the map. Courtney's elite. All right. Hey, so our friend Gary Ross, who's very prominent in the chat today, he threw out a center that he's interested in as a mid-round, late-round pick. And the guy his name is Eli Cox out of Kentucky. Now, I am going to lay out some things about Eli that not only do I think that he should be a Chicago Bear as a late round pick, but I also think he should work for CHGO. So this is I think this is your guy. I think Eli Cox. And, for the members of the tribe out there, no, Eli does not celebrate Rosh Hashanah. Even though his name is Eli, he is not, most guys I know whose name is Eli, they respect the Friday night, but Eli's dominating in so many ways on the field. And he's also giving back to the Lex City Church and the Flores Baptist Church. And he's doing great stuff, weekend service. I mean, this is a leader of men. But I'll tell you more about Eli after you tell us something that's very important, Greg, as we get to the top of the hour here.
That's right. Earlier this week, we launched the draft party, which I'll talk about here in a second, but make sure you become a diehard at allchgo.com/diehards. Here on your screen, there's the QR code. You can scan it, get right in, become a diehard. Exclusive written content by our guy, Adam Hogue. Also, Fran Duffy, our all-city NFL draft expert. He comes on with us every Wednesday, gives his insights, but you can see his big board that's exclusive only to you guys if you sign up to become a diehard. And then you also get discounts on merchandise. You get a free shirt right out the gate when you become a diehard. And then, of course, you get discounts on events like our draft party here coming up on April 24th and April 25th from 6 to 10 p.m. At 115 Bourbon Street in Marionette Park, presented by Circa Sports. We're going to have all-you-can-eat buffet that comes with your ticket, all-you-can-drink beers, wines, and wells to go along with that as well. We're all going to be there, the whole CHGO Bears crew. And then, of course, Corey Wooten and Lance Briggs will also be in the house. So don't miss it. Come hang out with us. 2-night event. Last year was unbelievable atmosphere, a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of intrigue to see what the Bears do with the number 10 pick. 2 second-round picks, for the second day, of course. So there's just a lot of good things here. Watch the front office, Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, put the finishing touches on the roster here this offseason. And we can have some drinks. I'll stay out all late night with you Thursday.
Great. Now, look forward to that.
Eli. All right.
Well, first of all, are you a big RAS score guy? Relative athletic?
You know me.
You're big in RAS.
If math is involved, then I am there because there is nothing I like talking more about than percentages and math because that's what I excelled at in high school. Everybody knows that.
What's 6 times 3 divided by 2?
Just, you know what? 6 times 3 is 18. Divided by 2 is 9. I'm not doing this with you.
You just did it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right. His RAS score was 987. Perfect as 10. So this is a big-time athlete at center. All right. This is and he's, again, mid-round pick. Bears did pay a lot of money to Drew Dahlman, but, it's sort of a developmental guy. But listen to this. Eli says, courtesy of the Kentucky website, Eli says, he chose Kentucky because he wanted to represent his state. Grew up in the state, wanted to represent him. Love that.
Okay.
His hidden talent, Greg Braggs, Stephen Nicholas, Photoshop skills. He's a Photoshopper. We don't have anybody that's good at that at this company. I mean, I don't think. Who's our best Photoshopper?
Well, yeah. Well, of course, we had the GOAT, Joey Spath.
We did.
That was amazing at that. He was top tier, but you're being somewhat disrespectful to someone that works very hard on this fine program who is great at Photoshopping. And that, of course, is the man giving you this death stare, Stephen Nicholas.
Look at the thumbnail today. Come on,
pull up the thumbnail, Stephen, while we're doing this. This is insane. We'll get back to Eli Cox, but here is the thumbnail to today's show where Carm thinks that we don't have a guy in-house that's good at Photoshopping. Carm, do you want to retract your statement and apologize to our guy, Stephen Nicholas?
No, I don't. I
That's more like it right there, huh?
Finally.
All right, you're back in. You're back in.
Hour has arrived.
Let me restate it. As much as Steven does every day, he's got to develop people, just like the Bears would be developing a center. You're talking about a guy with Photoshop skills already off the ground that you could develop. I like that move for you as somebody who's, just running the show here in ways that you do, Steven. Dream job. Go into sports broadcasting. We need a backup on this show. We need somebody to go off the show every now and then. I don't know who I'm talking about, but you know who I'm talking about. This guy wants to go into sports broadcasting. One word to describe him in the field. This is for you, Gregory. You know what it is? Aggressive. He's aggressive. You like being aggressive. You love this guy. You're an Eli Cox guy. Eli Cox is we need this guy. And lastly, and I think for everybody, to fall in love with Eli Cox. If he could create a holiday, he would call it National Super Bowl Monday, and everyone would have the day off after the Super Bowl. This dude's on it, man. He's got the Photoshop. He's got the sports broadcasting desire. He's a leader in the middle. He's a 2-time captain. Cox, Bears, CHGO, 5th round pick. Bring him in. Next thing you know, the big thing that I think via Gary Ross, I found the guy, Eli Cox.
You sold me on the Super Bowl Monday thing. That was it for me. Yeah.
And none of that had any actual like football breakdown attached to it.
I already gave his RAS score. He's a good athlete. What else do you need?
I'll get to the football breakdown aspect of it.
Maybe I said he's a two-time captain. He's a leader. What do you want? He bends down. He snaps the ball right through the old wicket like nobody else does. He's an Eli Cox.
All right, Eli Cox, noted. Noted. It'll be interesting to see if they do draft a center to develop behind Drew Dahlman. I certainly think that's one of their options in the later rounds. Not exactly sure where Eli Cox is slated to fall in the draft.
Right to the Bears with their 5th round pick. All right. On the way out here, Gregory, just want to shout out the supreme senior talent that is my niece, the amazing Grace Carman, 2-time All-State, going to go for 3 this year. Committed herself yesterday, going to Brandeis University, going to dominate there starting next year as a freshman. But the girls' varsity soccer season is off and running. Yep. And I had to go out. I went out to Hinsdale Central last night, 30 some odd degrees. Actually, it was a little warmer than that, but it was. So I get out there and it's cold. And my brother, he's in the stands. And I walk up. I'm like, I'm a media guy. I think I deserve access to the press box. So I just walk into the press box and, they're kind of in the middle, but there's like 2 other little nooks in there. So I just go into the first nook where they would broadcast football games, where the great Karan Amagaji played, where the great Doug Kramer played, all these things. So I'm sitting there in this room. They don't know I'm there. And I'm overhearing their conversation, and that feels a little bit wrong. And so then the great Grace Carman, about 15 minutes into the game, buries one to put Lane Tech up 1-0. And I hear the PA guy, and he's like, I didn't see who scored. Who was that? I think she had black sleeves. And so then I just peeked out. Her name is, that's Grace Carman, senior, Lane Tech, if you could just get that. And so then he announces it. And then I became great friends with my guy, Ruben, Syed, Miss Ray, and all the people at Hinsdale Central who allowed me to hang out in the press box while everybody was freezing cold last night. I enjoyed the festivities from there. So I want to say thank you to the great people at Hinsdale Central, the home of Karan Amagaji, the home of Doug Kramer.
Yeah, it's always good to see the high school sports broadcasters, trying to make their way in the world. I mean, yesterday, High Point's school broadcasters were calling the game. They bring a lot of energy. They were getting highlighted on the broadcast on TV. Unfortunately for High Point, their season ended at the hands of Purdue yesterday. All the credit to High Point, a private school. I don't know if you know this, Carm, about High Point, but this is like upper echelon school in North Carolina where they have like 20 pools on their campus for their students. They've literally rented a plane to fly out all their fans so they could be at the game. And then the best thing about High Point, Carm, and I heard this with Barstool Big Cat and them guys, they were saying that they have an ice cream truck.
Wow.
That is on campus, and you can walk up at any time and it's free. You can just walk up, get whatever you want from the ice cream truck for free, provided by the fine people from High Point. Even crazier, Big Cat was saying that they have a steakhouse on campus that once a month as a student, you're allowed to go there for free. And it's like a learning steakhouse where you eat, one free meal, steak dinner, but they also teach you like business professional dinner etiquette while you're there. How about that? How about High Point?
Going back to school, go to High Point, have some shakes, have a steak. Sounds delicious. That's fantastic.
Yeah, if you're going to give a shout out to Grace, I give a shout out to Purdue. And so then tomorrow they take on, of course, McNeese State.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to that tomorrow morning.
What Bulls nemesis went to McNeese State?
Ooh. John Starks?
Nope.
Wow, this is a good one. What a pull from you. I don't know.
That would be the one classy Detroit Piston, Joe Dumars, was a McNeese State guy.
Joe Dumars. Nice pull there,
yep.
Mark Carman, with your encyclopedia knowledge of basketball in the glory days. And so for today with March Madness, I'm rooting for our good friends over at Colorado State. I know Lindsay Spano would advocate for this as well. As a proud Colorado State alum, we cover Colorado State with our friends over at DNVR. And let me tell you why. Because my good buddy Ethan Morton played at Purdue for 4 years, playing his final season of college basketball with Colorado State, got him to the tournament, and he's trying to finish strong. They're playing right now, so shout out to them. I always got to bring it back to Purdue.
It's a good job. Anytime you get Lindsay Spano on the show, I approve of that. Our one of our great leaders. All right, to wrap it up, a guy that would have known the Joe Dumars McNeese State thing and literally everything else in sports in this great city, covered the Bears forever and has really covered everything. One of the true gentlemen, and also with a huge amount of, I don't know, cojones. Let's go there. Just willingness to ask the tough questions and push. The great Mark Potash tweeting out today, for those listening in the audio world, a 45 career year in sports writing and 2 pictures from the Chiefs Colts on September 2nd, 1979 at Arrowhead Stadium to the Bears Packers January 5th, 2025 at Lambeau Field. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. And he's got a picture of all of his credentials, which this is a little Les Grobstein-esque. I'm a little terrified that he kept all of these, but God bless him for doing it. Mark Potash, who's been on the show a million times and every other show too, because if you called up Mark Potash and asked him to do it, his answer was always yes, because he's a first-class dude and he never put himself above anyone, below anyone, and just huge heart. And again, the tenacity, the bulldoggedness that you want in your reports. I think that's why he's so well respected by so many Bears fans, sports fans everywhere. I know Mark wants to keep going. I hope he finds a great landing spot. People talked about hiring him here. I don't know if that's possible, but of course we'd love to have Mark Potash, because Mark Potash is one of the true GOATs. And just want to say thank you from all of us, really, to Potsy for what he, his contributions and just for being himself.
Yeah, he's a great dude, and his brand of humor, especially on Twitter. When you're the elder statesman with all us young bucks on Twitter and our certain way we hold receipts and make our jokes. Well, he brought it from a different angle, and if you didn't get it, I feel bad for it. If you did get it, you were better off for it, because his humor is great, but his insights, obviously, like you said, were always profound. As Adam said, I think one of the strongest statements made in the last 10, 20 years of Bears coverage was when he said a couple months ago that people walk into Hallis Hall and become a lesser version of themselves. And that was the cold, hard truth. And hopefully that changes here going forward. And certainly I think the Bears are trying to do things to make that change, but that's just to a point of how Potsy always told it like it is. And from my personal standpoint, when I was first trying to get into this industry in 2018 and figure out my way of doing things, and it's certainly a lot different than a lot of people in the media. It's obviously a competitive industry, certainly here in Chicago, and you got a lot of people looking over their shoulder. And when I was at training camp, being a goofball, leaving bricklaying on a half day to come to training camp and do my fake coverage on my own, to act like I'm some reporter on the scene in the stands. Potsy was always very encouraging to me, never gave me a side eye to it. Even thanked me for some of the stuff I did, because it helped elevate the coverage he was bringing by looking at some of my videos I was putting up, and that would help, him with his articles, or at least as he told me. So that always encouraged me to want to keep going with it. And he always made me feel welcomed, and he didn't have to do that. And so for me, I'm always going to be Team Potsy and be in his corner, and we're certainly rooting for him. I'm sure he's not done yet, but the credential picture certainly was cool as well. I don't know if you save yours, Carm. If you don't have your Bulls credentials from the 90s, man, that's going to make me die a little bit inside.
It's funny too, because, nowadays I have a season credential, so this is one badge.
Right.
But back then, that year, I didn't have it for the Bulls, because I got to cover them in '98. Hashtag, yes, I've been around for a couple minutes too myself. I have a couple of them. I don't know where. But
maybe you're not as much the nostalgic guy, and that's fine. It's not for everybody. That kills me that you didn't save those. Those to me are to be treasured forever. But I do save every single credential I have. And like I said, the nostalgic thing, I'm a hoarder when it comes to all my mementos and stuff. But
surprising to no one.
Yeah, no, of course not. But I don't take any of it for granted, and so not saying you do. It's not for everybody, but I treasure those, and I look forward to being able to look back one day like Potsy. Hopefully I'd be lucky enough. We'd all be lucky enough to have as long a career as he's had in this industry, certainly in this city. And so I look forward to the day I can look back, I've always said, even if it all ended for me tomorrow, I could look at all the things that I've accumulated over the last few years and experiences and moments I've had in this. So I don't take it for granted. So it's refreshing to see a guy like that's been doing it since 1979 to have that same perspective.
Shout out to Potash, and shout out to your 45-year career that you're embarking on, Gregory. We think that you'll probably pass away in year 26, but hopefully that won't be the case. I believe in you.
If I do, I'll say this much. If I do, I'm going to schedule tweets. Like if I know that I'm about to go, I'm going to schedule a bunch of tweets that go in the future so I can keep firing off the tweets going forward. That's my plan.
That's a great idea. That's elite thinking right there. Hey, thanks to Adam Rank for jumping on. Thanks to Stephen Nicholas for producing.
We have super chats before we go.
Most importantly, thanks to everybody who watched our supers today. Thank you, Greg. Chubbs82, $10. Illinois basketball's on today. The team you're all supposed to be cheering for since you're from the region, unless you're a Nepo baby from Northwestern.
Yeah, he's calling you a Nepo baby. He's making fun of me because I'm from the region. And clearly, Chubbs being from Southern Illinois, a big Illinois basketball fan, they never taught him punctuation at whatever school he went to. How about a comma, Chubbs? Maybe a period or a capital letter. Try those out, you idiot.
They're up in Milwaukee tonight. Xavier, the opponent, who came back and got a win.
Well, Big Ten is 4-0. Thank you very much. And so we got 2 more to go today, Oregon and Illinois. So how about you guys finish our conference strong here for the first couple days? Thank you very much.
My guy Snidbit, $5. Appreciate you. Let's try again. Carmonica, please. I got it right here for you, my friend. I want Genty like I want candy. Strange love. Steven, you didn't want to say it. I will. The next sweetness. All right. So it's I want Genty to I want candy. You ready, Braggs? I want Genty. I want Genty. Pick him number 10. Make him our running back for the next 10 years. That last line was terrible. There you go, Sidbit. I want Genty.
And it was like, other than the I want Genty part, you like, I just didn't think you followed the song. Like, and I figured you would be better with this, but you'd be like, now I want a guy that hits the hole. Da, 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 runs the players. No, that's all but that's where it goes. You didn't do that tone.
I don't know. I want candy well enough, apparently. Hey, gave you the best I had. Thank you there, Snidbit. Chubbs82, $2. L Boogie. What's my nickname in the Army in 2008?
L Boogie is Lance Briggs' nickname, and Chubbs is sharing that his nickname in the Army was L Boogie.
Okay. Aaron, congratulations. Thank you for your service, Chubbs. We do appreciate that for real. Aaron Burson, can I get a Carm shout out for becoming a diehard last week? Yes, you can, Aaron. A to B. You don't just go. See, listen, a lot of people like to jump on the train midstream and then they take credit for things. That's not you, Aaron. You start when the going is the toughest and you put your head down and you get the ball rolling. You move the boulder when others perhaps take the easy way out and start drinking Dr. Pepper Zero and having all the Crown and Cokes, Crown and diets that they can have. Not you, buddy. You're a boulder pusher. You're a winner. You're Aaron Burson, and you are a sweet diehard. What do you think that avatar is? Is that a tent or what is that thing? Looks like a little sweet campground or something.
I don't know, but 15 seed Robert Morris is giving Alabama everything they got. 9 minutes to go. They're only down 2. We got a game here, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday's games were boring. We need some fun here today. Let's go.
All right. On that note, we got to go. I got to get Fred Carman over to the bank. Papa Fred needs a little help today, so I got to run out. Gregory, good luck tomorrow. I don't really mean it, but I'm saying it anyway. Good luck to you, Illinois fans, tonight up in Milwaukee. I hope a bunch of you are making the trip up there. It's a sweet opportunity if it's in the budget. And yeah, hey, a lot of fun today, buddy.
It was.
We'll see you back on Monday. Steven, again, thanks for producing. Thanks to everybody who liked and who subscribed. And if you haven't, please do that on the way out. And we will see you back here Monday at noon. Have a great weekend.
We all silly like the mayor.